Overlord. Volume 14, Chapter 3, The Last King, Part 2. The Sorcerer's kingdom had finally begun their westward invasion. City after city and village after village fell in their wake. They were beelining towards the capital, albeit at a painfully slow rate. The larger an army was, the slower it would march. However, according to her companion, Evil Eye, this should not apply to the Sorcerer's kingdom's army, which was completely comprised of the undead. She believed that this was done to stress out the kingdom's inhabitants. The stress of an invading army had already caused chaos to break out within the capital, and many had died as a result. After that had happened, the people of the capital had two options. The first was to flee the capital and move towards the opposite direction of Irantal the west. The other option was to remain in the capital, shut their doors, and never come out of hiding. As to which option was more popular, the overwhelming majority of people chose the latter. Those who chose the former were all people with the capital, connections, or skills to guarantee their survival even in faraway lands. That was why more than 95% of the capital's population chose to stay. But, that was only true till yesterday. The royalty had put up a decree. The decree was that due to the ever-encroaching army of the Sorcerer's kingdom, the city required more manpower to defend it. All able-bodied men had to join the battle. It was essentially a draft. Of course, there were those who feared the battlefield and so still chose to hold themselves up, but the amount of people who believed that if they were to not contribute to the war effort, their loved ones would die, held the majority. The fiery passion of the people began to spread within the capital. Those affected by it started to descend into madness. The streets bustled with men preparing for war. Fathers and their sons alike were soldiers. Those who wished for better rations while they were away made the culinary industry boom. This was all exacerbated by the people's knowledge that the royalty had ordered every merchant within the city to keep food prices low. The members of Blue Roses shuffled through the crowd. Lake Yus had a suggestion for her companions behind her. I said, "Guys, I can handle it on my own." The request did not specify who should go, but that doesn't mean that all of us have to move out at once. I bet everybody is busy, right? How about we go our separate ways here? What is up with you, Lake Yus? Is there a reason why you don't want us to tag along? Lake Yus forcefully adopted a smile upon hearing what Evil Eye had said. Though in her mind she had thought, "How keen of you," she did not give voice to that thought. Evil Eye was fine in that regard. Tina and Tia were much keener than she was. Thank God she wasn't facing them instead. I understand what Lake Yus is feeling right now. I heard that Ajuth Dana was coming too, right? Lake Yus felt her heart drop for a moment. That was correct. Lake Yus' uncle, the leader of the Adamanti-tranked adventurer group Red Drop, Ajuth Indra, was invited alongside them. Oh, your family. There must be a lot you two want to discuss in private, right? We understand. Nice. Their confusion led them away from the real reason. Lake Yus concurred with what Gagaran had said. That's right. Could you guys just do this for me? He didn't even look for me after he came to the capital. So. How perplexing. Unbelievable. Lake Yus looked towards the twins. You two are related and both are leaders of Adamanti-tranked adventurer groups. Given the current situation, he still did not tell you about his return to the capital, so how did our requester find out about it? If he was related to Red Drop, he should have said so. But, that requester said nothing at all. Last night, a man of insignificant stature showed up at the inn the Blue Roses were staying at, told them that they had a job request, and to head to this location. To have directly approached them rather than go through the Adventurers Guild was an act suspicious enough that it made Lake Yus want to reject his offer. However, upon learning that Ajuth of Red Drop would be there too, she had to show up as well. That's right. This is beyond suspicious. This could be called a conspiracy even. It could be a lie to bait us in or something. Yeah. Given the possibility that this could be a trap, even though you are strong, there are still some things you can't handle alone. If this other party is trying to harm us, we should try not to get picked off one by one. Guys. Lake Yus was happy that everybody was so worried over her. But also, we also want to meet with that hero senpai. I've only heard of his name but have never met with him in the past. If you're related to him, it should be easy for us to meet with him, right? Lake Yus felt her stomach collapse in on itself. While her uncle wasn't exactly a bad guy, he couldn't be called a good person either. Overall, what she was certain of was the fact that he was someone who could only be a bad influence on children. When Lake Yus had met with him back when she was still a child, he appeared to be normal, but that might have been him just hiding his true nature. Perhaps his screw came loose during his adventures? She only had one solution to things that she could not understand, though this wasn't exactly something God would bother with, and that was to pray. Other than that, there was nothing she could do about it. Her uncle was the type to act all honest and upstanding when meeting someone for the first time. He was also the type to spout corny lines like, "If you long for a hero, then it is that hero's duty to grant your wish." She could only hope that he would do the same this time. Lake Yus and company arrived at the inn they were told to go to. The business around here seemed to be quite run down, and the place was just dirty in general. The doors to the inn were built well and surprisingly heavy. Right after Lake Yus had pushed open the door, Tia and Tina tapped her twice on her waist. It was a signal for her to be on alert. They must have noticed something. Opposite the door was the counter, yet they could not see any evidence of tavern-like business was being conducted here. That meant that this place was remote enough that this establishment could not operate as a tavern, but only as an inn. Lake Yus felt that everybody had switched modes due to the eeriness of this place. They were prepared for combat to break out at any second. Lake Yus spoke to the aloof man behind the counter. "We are the Blue Roses, here to meet with our client. Go to room 301. Mr. Ajuth of Red Drop is already there." Was he really here? It was time to find out. Lake Yus thanked him and immediately ascended the stairs to the side. The inn was incredibly silent. They did not cross paths with another person the whole way there, nor did they hear any sounds at all. Was it because the walls had great sound isolation properties, or was it because the inn was actually empty? The group reached the third floor and found the amount of rooms on the floor to be surprisingly low. The rooms on this floor were probably huge. Lake Yus knocked on the door that had a sign marked with the number 301. "Uncle, I'm Lake Yus." After focusing her ears, she faintly heard a man's voice on the other side of the door saying, "Come in." The volume of the voice was so low that she could not tell if it was her uncle's or not. After blocking Tia and Tina, Lake Yus pushed open the doors herself. The interior of the room was vastly different from its exterior. The room was filled with exquisite and heavy furniture, much more luxurious than Lake Yus Inn. To be honest, that creeped her out. This inn was terribly suspicious after all. They had not even finished surveying the entire room when a voice was directed towards Lake Yus. "Ah, Lake Yus. Long time no see. UNC." That was indeed her uncle's voice. Lake Yus forcefully slammed the doors shut towards the direction her uncle's voice had come from. What's going on, Lake Yus?" Gagaran was the first to speak. Everybody must have heard her uncle's voice already. It was hard for her to say that nothing was wrong after that display. "Guys, I feel like I should meet with my uncle alone after all." "This girl, are you seriously saying such things even after we came all the way here?" Evil Eye's dumbfounded voice was to be expected. Lake Yus looked at everybody's expressions. Evil Eye had spoken as their representative. She could tell that the rest of them had the same thought from their expressions alone. Then, "Sigh, guys. Let me make it clear. My uncle is an odd individual. The leader of Red Drop." Lake Yus put on the stern expression as expected of a leader and nodded upon hearing what Tina had said. She then looked towards the others. They were confused, but having known Ch3 for a long time, they knew her to be honest. After she had parsed that from their expressions, Ch3 opened the door again. There was a shiny velvet chaise longue in the room. On it sat a man she knew well. It was Indra in the flesh. His upper torso was completely exposed, one could clearly make out his well-defined abs and puffed-up pecs. This wasn't exactly how one should present themselves in front of their client, yet it was not the reason why Ch3 stopped her companions from advancing forward. On top of Ajutha's body, to his left and right, were two half-naked women snuggling up to him. No, they could not be called half-naked. Their voluptuous chests were fully exposed, and though they were wearing undergarments, they were just strings that barely covered up anything at all. From their appearances, they appeared to be high-class escorts. Erotic outfits that were likely taken off recently were strewn across the ground. Ajutha held both women in each of his arms, his hands were latched on their breasts, rubbing them. "Uncle, your niece was summoned here by the same client. Can't you welcome me in a more appropriate manner?" Ch3 said. However, Ajutha's hands did not leave the breasts of those women as he continued to knead them without giving it much thought. The women did not seem to mind Ch3's group at all, but just uncaringly continued on with their soft moans. This attitude honestly enraged Ch3 a little. If these women had been procured by their client, Ch3 would like to have a word with them. "Nah, I thought that you guys would come a bit later." I'm not actually doing it on the bed anyway, so why should it matter?" "Of course it should." Ch3 did not bother to turn around to check her companion's expressions. "Really?" Ajutha's had a confused expression, yet he did not stop rubbing the women. "You're just too inflexible in your ways of thought. It is in every man's nature to want to fuck beautiful women. My children would probably be born with the same gift too. Don't you know that it's important to ensure that our bloodline continues on? Even though you're highborn, this kind of mentality is still so deeply ingrained in your heart." Upon hearing what Evil Eye had said, Ajutha put on a displeased expression and stared at her. Though they could feel a sense of pressure from his gaze alone, none of Blue Rose's backed down. To Evil Eye especially, it felt just like a soft breeze. She continued. "Sigh. From your expression alone I can tell that was bullseye. They call your hero, but you're no different than a child. Actually, could it be that the reason why you abandoned your status as a noble and chose the life of an adventurer was precisely because of you being the type of person that you are? Anyways, this is no attitude to receive your clients. Ladies, begone. What's with this child?" The woman laying on the right glared at Evil Eye. "Sigh, what a bother. Hey, Indra, is the room on that side still vacant?" Evil Eye pointed towards a door that wasn't the one to the corridor. "Ah. That's a bedroom, I've checked it already." "Is that so? Then send them there. What's with this child? What is she trying to do?" The woman to the left glared at Evil Eye with an angry expression. "Don't you act all high and mighty now, you're just a brat who won't even dare to show their face. Sigh. Charm person. Go." "Ah, yes. Understood." The woman on the left stood up immediately, prompting the woman on the right to take on a shocked expression with her mouth wide open. "You too. Don't forget the clothes on the floor." Before the woman could respond, her charm person had already been cast. The women obediently walked into the adjacent room. Ajutha pouted and raised his shoulders. From an adventurer's perspective, what Evil Eye had done was no different than someone drawing their blade, yet he did not appear to fault her for it. Though she did not want to admit it, Evil Eye saw him as pretty lenient in that regard. "Evil Eye, good job." Tina raised a thumb to Evil Eye, to be brave enough to let women who could have been assassins get this close to you, as expected of an adamantite-ranked adventurer. Were they? We were trained to do those things back then as well. Women who were not gifted in raw power or arcane talents could only resort to weaponizing their femininity. Though Gagaran cannot relate at all, I'll still explain their methods. First, Evil Eye tuned out of Tia's explanation and spoke to Lake Yus instead. It would be troublesome if that wasn't done. Well, I won't interrupt you with this topic anymore. Speak of whatever you want, I guess. Thank you, Evil Eye. Now then, hey she was already exhausted before she had spoken a single word. Now then, Uncle, our client this time around is extremely suspicious. Who are they? Oi, you came here without knowing about them? There's someone with a massive organization behind them, probably. Probably. Speaking of which, are they someone you are familiar with? I haven't met them in person. If they knew their manners, they would have given me their name. If they intend to hide their identity, then Ajuth smiled, they must be someone shady. So, what are you planning to do? What do you mean what do I plan to do? If you guys want to leave this place, you can use the path I planned out. We do not intend to leave. Lake Yus felt everybody's gaze on her. PFFF. Think over it. The Sorcerer King's army has killed every civilian along its way towards here and razed the cities too. To think that the capital would be any different, aren't you being a little too naive? Then, Uncle, let us fight side by side. It's impossible. Because I did not confirm his power directly, I could not say for sure. But if the rumors are all real, we can't win against that guy. Only a monster could fight that monster. It would be unwise for humans to intervene. Ajuth sighed tiredly. Lake Yus had never seen her uncle like this. I knew this was a waste of time, that was why I did not bring the rest of the team along. I also told my brother to run away. But, none of them did, right? Ha! What a bunch of idiots. But, he did put his child under my care. They were taken by my companions to the council state and are probably there already. Just as complicated emotions arose in Lake Yus' heart, Tia nervously said, "Boss." At the same time, a man's voice came from the corridor, "You're all on time." The three who had been standing by the door, Tia, Tina, and Gagaran, appeared to be pushed along by an unseen power into the room. A man and a woman followed after them. The one who walked in front was a young man. All 10 of his fingers had rings adorning them. A gentle smile shone from his face. Behind him was a tired woman. Her clothes were loose and she walked in a way that said she did not want to walk at all. An unusually giant hat sat on her dome, covering most of her face. Lake Yus raised her guard. Her companions were being suppressed on a biological level, that is to say, from raw power alone. Both of the visitors were capable of giving the world-famous adamantite-tranked adventurer Lake Yus a fright she could not put into words. Yet, once the person behind them showed up, the atmosphere changed more so than ever. That man's giant body slowly inched its way into the room. His appearance was that of an axe-wielding barbarian. An intense, overwhelming pressure emanated from him that made them feel as though the space around them was being distorted. The two in front of them were indeed strong. But, that man is far more powerful than them both. Lake Yus could not move, as if she was being suffocated. As an adamantite-tranked adventurer, she had defeated numerous powerful monsters and demi-humans, yet they all paled in comparison to this man. He might even be stronger than the skull-wearing demon that appeared during Jaldabaoth's disturbance. That man was probably the bodyguard of those two. People as strong as them, if they did not belong to any organization, would inevitably cause rumors about them to spread. If that was the case, what was behind them must be an enormous, national-level organization to be capable of hiding information about them completely. We were right to bring our equipment along. Every single one of them is stronger than us. Ha! I don't remember hearing about people like them within the kingdom. Oi, you're late already, so don't go around spreading that dangerous aura. Did management mandate that you do? Do something this boring. The woman Ajuth was mocking objected. To bring whores along, how impressive, old man. This is not a love hotel though. Ajuth responded in kind to her. Humph, this place was the exact reason why I called them over, I wanted you all to be as disgusted as I was. Tisk dash the woman snapped her mouth shut as she adopted an expression that was hard to look at. She did not object to what Ajuth had said, meaning that this inn was indeed connected to them. There were only two countries that had the capability to set up national-level organizations. One was the council state, the other was the theocracy. The latter was far more likely. Well, if you all will just end this right now, I would be very happy. Kui-chan, sigh, Kui-chan is the lead this time so I'll just listen to you. TL's note, Kui-s, Clementine's brother. After being scolded by the gentleman, the woman forced herself to shrug and nod along. Ajuth-sama is absolutely correct. You took time out of your busy schedule to meet with us yet we were the last to arrive. I do apologize to your esteemed person. Humph. Ajuth sneered a little, yet that gentleman's smile never faltered. Now then, do forgive me for my frankness, let us get down to business. Ajuth Indra-sama and the members of Blue Rose present. Lake Yus squinted her eyes. Her uncle had abandoned his title as a noble, but because he still retained the title of honorary knight, proper etiquette dictated that he must be referred to by his full name. However, Ajuth was the type to dislike being called by his full name. Those who were meeting him for the first time and wanted to follow protocol would have fallen into this trap. This gentleman, however, managed to avoid this. This meant that this man had done his thorough research. No, it was probably more accurate to say that the people behind this man had done their research. Lake Yus Alvain Dale Indra-sama. Evil Eye-sama. Tia-sama. Tina-sama. Gagaran-sama. We are here to persuade you to join our side. Though fighting to your last breath here is an honorable option, we do implore everyone here to consider the future instead. Ugh. Such an impolite fellow. So, which country sent you? It doesn't matter which country we're from. It's all useless. Suddenly, a hand appeared from behind the woman and covered her mouth. No way. Tia and Tina drew their weapons in surprise. Behind the woman stood a man wearing an odd outfit. His entire body, including his face and hands, were covered. Metal plates lined his clothing for better defense. Not good, it's an assassin way beyond our league. Not good, he's much stronger than us. These two were the strongest, most vicious assassins that Lake Yus knew of, but this man was stronger than them both. Please do not worry and please sheath your weapons. If our goal was your demise, we would not have introduced ourselves in such a trifling method. The gentleman was correct. To have entered this room in a way where none of these adamantite-ranked adventurers could notice must have included the use of an ability that was capable of completely masking oneself. To have revealed himself in such an idiotic manner meant that he wasn't there to assassinate them. Or perhaps this was part of their tactic too. They were reminding them that if they did not join their side, outstanding assassins could get them at any time. Also, as for my companion's slightly inappropriate matter of speech, I do deeply apology. Oi. What good does hiding that fact do for you? You guys are from the theocracy, right? Are they really from the theocracy? I can't believe that people like this exist there. A shocked Evil Eye said. Lake Yus was equally surprised. They had fought against a unit that was burning down demi-human villages in the past and they were strong. Especially the captain of that unit, who was stronger than Lake Yus was at that time. Yet, no one from that unit was as strong as the people in front of them. You didn't know? I thought that you'd at least have heard rumors about them. They are the pride of the theocracy, their unit of heroes, the Black Scripture. It's likely that all of them have reached the realm of heroes. Ajuth was looking towards the barbarian. That man put on the smile a beast would have right before it feasted on its prey. Ha 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 ha. Looks like you know quite a bit about us. But, don't you have one too? Someone like me, or even stronger than me? He pointed towards Evil Eye of Blue Rose. You're a hard one to deal with. Yet his attitude was not of one admitting defeat, rather, his expression told them that he treated Evil Eye as an equal. Humph. There are people stronger than me, excluding fiends, of all of the humans and demi-humans, only Momon-sama is stronger. Only Momon? The barbarian muttered to himself while a faint smile bloomed on his face, and said no more. I say. People of the Theocracy's secret unit. Why won't you fight alongside us against the Sorcerer King? Perhaps that woman also, no, that was, Evil Eye continued to mumble to herself, but Ajuth ignored her and asked the gentleman, who responded with his unwavering smile. To have received an invitation from your esteemed person is an utmost honor to us all. However, we are here on an express mission to convince your esteemed persons to join us. That is why we can only choose to ceremoniously reject your suggestion. After all, soldiers who participate in battles out of their own selfish desires would only bring harm to their organization. Trying to use your orders as a scapegoat, I see. Still, I'm interested to hear your personal opinion. What a bore, aren't things much simpler if we just followed our superior's order? The annoyed woman said. The gentleman's smile faded away as it was replaced by a troubled expression. I bet you're the type to find even your own thought process to be annoying. That's about right. As long as I carry out my orders, the responsibility for them will always fall on my superiors. It's too annoying to have to shoulder responsibilities myself, so I don't bother with it. I'm pretty good at shifting responsibilities onto others, I've even received praise for it. They weren't praising you. The barbarian whispered to himself. He. Now then, Indra-sama, my apologies. Ajuth-sama, we understand what you meant. So, what about the members of Blue Rose? Before that, could we ask a question? How can we escape from here? I will tell you how after you join us. By the way, we have extended this offer to numerous other adventurer groups already and they have all accepted. Those groups have already been relocated to safer locations to sit this one out. Oi! Did you use violence or threats to force them to go with you? As Kugane had said, if someone as strong as them were to threaten other people, it would be hard for them to refuse. We really do, from the depths of our heart, want to become comrades with you all. This is a cooperation for our future, for humanity's future. The gentleman did not appear to be lying at all, his personality was probably the reason why he was chosen to be the negotiator. I refuse. Lakius did not even have time to ask for everybody else's opinions before Kugane replied. No need for we will go with the leader's decision. Her companions started nodding their heads in agreement upon hearing what Kugane had said. Is that true? Looks like nothing I could say will sway your opinion. Looks like I'm out of options. The gentleman took their rejection unusually well. Lakius lowered her posture in case he resorted to force. After seeing what Lakius had done, the gentleman gave a wry smile. Please, there's no need to worry, Lakius-sama. We do not plan to use force. We hope that everyone here could avenge those who have fallen to the Sorcerer King. We have left a fee for your troubles at the reception, please do accept it before you return. Now then we'll be on our way. After the gentleman gave his orders, the people of the Theocracy began walking towards the exit. Things appeared to have concluded peacefully. Just as Lakius breathed a sigh of relief, Ajuth called out to the gentleman. Oi, speaking of which. The Mr. named Rufus or Rufus, is he still okay? Are you? I'm terribly sorry. Our country spans a vast area, so I do not know who you are referring to. If you could be a bit more specific. Ah, is that so? I suppose it's only natural for people of your rank to not know him by name after all. So, how do you guys usually address that undead? Milord or something? Every member of the Black Scripture was stunned and were subsequently filled with malice. The entire room was suddenly overflowing with an aura of bloodlust that made them feel as though combat was about to break out at any moment. The gentleman was the first to make a move. He extended both arms to stop the people behind him. Kui-chan. What's wrong? Are we not killing them? The gentleman stared at Ajuth with cold, unmoving eyes and calmly replied to the woman. He's bluffing. Do not move of your own accord. This is an order. The bloodlust that emanated from them disappeared as fast as it had appeared. The gentleman's cold-eyed stare remained on Ajuth. Though I am extremely curious to find out the extent of your knowledge on this matter, I will report this to my superiors. Everybody, it's time for us to leave. The members of the Black Scripture did not lower their guards as they walked out the room but maintained the attitude that if Lakyus group was to take any sort of action, they would retaliate in kind. After a while, after Lakyus was certain that the Black Scripture had left already, she started ranting at Ajuth. Uncle, you're the weakest of us all. Please stop provoking other people. Ha! Indeed, that was pretty dangerous. I did not expect them to antagonize us that hard. If it wasn't for that man with the fake smile, I would have been dead. They were probably thinking something along the lines of, rather than dirty our own hands, it'll be more beneficial if we let the Sorcerer King have his fill first before we have ours or something. Though I doubt we were worth that kind of consideration. Lakyus intentionally directed her side towards Ajuth, who had been laughing loudly. Was that really the case? Her uncle had revealed to the Black Scripture that he had some sort of crucial intel on the theocracy. It would not have been unusual for them to kill him to prevent that intel from getting into the Sorcerer King's hands. The other probable outcome would have been for them to kidnap him to interrogate him or use magic to get the intel out of him. The root of the issue was why her uncle had let the theocracy know that he had that kind of intel. If he had not done so, the conversation would have concluded with nothing else happening. Why would he intentionally burn himself? Ajuth wasn't someone who couldn't see the bigger picture. Given that was the case, there had to be something in the background that Lakyus did not know of. She would not get an answer from thinking about it alone. Lakyus stopped that useless train of thought. For God's sake, so, what does Uncle plan to do next? Ha! I plan to wait till the Sorcerer King's army made its way here. The big boys up there seem to be planning to send soldiers to the neighboring territories to take formations. To be honest, I don't think they have a chance at victory. The Sorcerer King and his lackeys will come here sooner or later. You're not strong enough to trade blows with him, just run away. He had made his intentions clear. Even so, I will not abandon the city to run away. Uncle. If something was to defeat the Sorcerer King, it would not be the strike of a warrior but rather, the stab of an assassin. Precisely because of that, Lakyus had to clench her teeth and simply watch as waves of men were sent out to defend against the Sorcerer King's attack. If you wish to invite me to fight alongside you, I refuse. I have my own plans. Really? Yup. I will do what I do best, and you should do what you do best. However, for the sake of my cute niece I will reiterate again. It's best for you all to run away. You are all nothing in the face of the Sorcerer King's power. Humph, what does that mean? Are you saying that you could achieve more than us? Faced with Evil Eye's question, Ajuth laughed as if he did not have an answer to that. Indeed, even I could not win against the Sorcerer King. I am but a mere man. But, even if the Sorcerer King surrounds the entire capital, I alone could still escape. Ajuth stood up. Now then, I'll be going to the other room to work these hips. What will you guys be doing? Lakyus realized what her uncle had meant and furrowed her brows. We'll go back. After all, there are still things we need to prepare for. Lakyus bid farewell to her uncle and descended the stairs carefully with the rest of her group. They took their pay on the first floor and left the inn. It did not appear as though the Black Scripture was waiting in ambush there.